Good morning, friends. Welcome back. So, yesterday we have seen some very basics of your computer network. And what we said, we learn about what is a network and what is the difference between network and networking. So, network, as we know, is connection of devices for the purpose of sharing. That is what network is. And networking is installation, configuration, and administration. Remember the example we took? We said if there are two devices connected with each other, like say two computers are connected with each other, it does not mean they are communicating. One is the connection, another one is the communication. So devices are connected, but to start communication between these devices, we should do some installation, some configuration, and some administration. Okay. So installation like installation of operating system or installation of applications or installation of services, configuration of applications, configuration of services, and of course we should do the administration part. Okay, now the next thing here is we said how we are connecting devices. So the devices are connected by using a cable or wireless. Wire is your option and wireless is your option, but we know for security reasons and for uh, for speed we go with cables. In most of the cases, in more than 95% cases, we just go with a cable to connect all the devices together. Okay, wireless is also an option, but wireless has many limitations, so better we go with a cable network when you make a computer network. So there can be 20 computers or 20 devices in a network, or there can be 20,000 devices in a network. There is no proper number. There is no number like, okay, only this many devices should be there. It should be minimum two for sure, but it can be like any number of devices in a network. Okay, still we go with the cables. And what are the cables we use here? We use fiber optic cable as well as UTP cable. And like we said yesterday, fiber optic cables are used in very few scenarios. These cables can be connected to very few devices like high configuration routers, servers, switches, firewalls, all these devices. But in majority of cases, around 95% cases within the company, we go with this UTP cable. Okay, and like I said, you in UTP there are again different types of cables. Like there is a cable called cross cable, straight cable, rollover cable. All these things we will see in our coming sessions, but as of now just remember these are the two cables we have in our computer network. Fine. So computer network, networking, and the cables, these are the simple terminologies we have discussed in our previous class. Now coming to our devices, we said devices connected with each other. So what devices we have in our computer network? Of course, we need computer. It can be a desktop machine or it can be a laptop, whatever computer. We need a server. We need a router, switch. These are the four most common devices we have. And if you go with some other device, like there is a firewall. But see, firewall will not be there in every company. Small companies, they may use a router or a switch to provide security. Firewalls, a dedicated firewall will be there in a medium to big level company, but in a small company it is very difficult for a company to afford a firewall because they need to bring a firewall and they need to hire a fire security administrator, so it will cost them a lot of money. So small companies, they just go with a server and a router and a switch. We can configure security in server, router, and switch. There are different levels of securities. Firewall has a different security, but some features of firewall are already added in our router. There is something called access control list that will take around 2 classes for us to see in CCNA. So that feature is added in router. So by using that feature, access control list, we can provide security to our network. Okay, like server also, there are some different security things we have. So we can provide different security features in server also. Okay, so what are the features available? What security things we can configure? All these things we will see in our coming classes. But as of now, let us see what devices are server, computer, router, and switches. How they look. What is there inside a server? What is there inside a router? Which operating systems they use? All these things we'll try to understand today. Now, let us begin with computer. We know computer very well. Computer or a laptop that we are using for many years now. Okay, so let us just try to compare our computer with a server. Things will look more easier for us to understand. Okay, so this is your hardware part, and this is the hardware of a computer, let us say, and there is a hardware of server. Computer has a separate hardware, server has a hardware. So let us see what hardware components we see. Now, one of the most important component in a computer or a server or anywhere is CPU, Central Processing Unit. You know, whenever you take a computer, normally we call a computer by a CPU name. We say this is a i7 laptop or i3 laptop or i5 laptop. That is what we say, right? So CPU is one of the most important component in any device. Especially when you talk about computer and server, that is the most important part, most important component. So when you go with a computer here, friends, in computer we have to take a CPU, and normally with CPU we take in a computer. Nowadays we have CPUs like, you know, i3, i5, i7, i9. These are the processors we have. So in a general way, we can say like i5 is better than i3, or i7 is better than i5, or i9 is better than i7. That is what we say generally. The latest one is always better than the previous version or previous CPU. Now, let us see some features of a CPU. What exactly we need to see in a processor before we purchase a processor. See, when you work in a company as the administrator, it is your responsibility to decide what computers we have to take and which server we have to take and what configuration we have to take in that computer or in that server. That means like what CPU we have to take, how much RAM we have to take, how much hard disk we have to take. All these things we need to consider. So on what basis we can say like, okay, i3 is better than i5 or i7 is better than i9? On what basis, on what logic we can say this? Now, for example, when you work in a company, there are like different departments in a company. There are like accounts department, there is accounts department, finance, marketing, programming, multimedia. There are like many departments in a company. So for accounts people, we should take a computer with certain configuration. For programmers, we should take a machine with certain configuration, and for multimedia people, we should take a machine with certain configuration. These three departments, the hardware will not be same in their computers. It will be a different hardware. For example, accounts people, what they do, they go with a application called Tally. Tally is a small application compared to any multimedia application like Photoshop or, you know, any other multimedia application. These multimedia applications, they need more RAM. They need high processor, high speed processor. Tally, if you take like, you know, i3 processor and 4 GB RAM, that is enough. But this 4 GB RAM is not enough for your multimedia people. So all these things we need to consider. So we will see this again in more details in our coming sessions. But as of now, let us try to analyze how a computer should be taken, what hardware should be taken in a computer. Okay. Okay, fine. So I'll just try to make a design of our computer now. So the first layer in a computer is obviously your hardware. And in hardware, there are certain things we need to consider like CPU and hard disk, CPU actually RAM and hard disk. These are the three major things. And of course, there is something called NIC card, network interface card, that we will see. It should be there. Now, if you go with CPU, like suppose if you take i5 CPU, but you know, in this i5 CPU, there are different generations, there are different, you know, speed and all those things. There can be 10 laptops or 10 computers with i5 CPU, and each and every laptop can be there with a different configuration. That is possible. Okay. So when you take a CPU, one of the things we need to see in a CPU is how many cores it has. How many cores we have in that particular CPU. A CPU can be there with a dual core, quad core, octa core, or hexa core. Come again. A processor can be there with a dual core, quad core, octa core, and a hexa core. What exactly it means? Core is a logical part of your CPU. Core is a logical part of your CPU. First of all, let us see how CPU looks actually. I hope you have seen this CPU somewhere before, maybe physically or maybe somewhere in a photo. This is a CPU, guys. This is a processor that we have in our computer. Normally, we call it as the brain of the computer. The most important part of the computer is the CPU. So it is one physical chip. You can see it is a small physical chip. So this physical chip can come in dual core, quad core, octa core, or hexa core. What it means? Dual core means processor is one, CPU is only one, but it is working as two processors. That is called dual core. If you go with like octa core, or if you go with like quad core, actually there are totally four cores in one processor. That means physical processor is one, but this one physical processor is working as your four processors. See, here it is written as i5. It is only one processor, but if it is i5 dual core, it is working as two processors internally. But if it is i5 quad core, it is working as totally four processors internally. So one physical processor is working as four. If you go with octa core, one physical processor is working as totally eight processors. So my laptop is suppose dual core and your laptop is suppose octa core. I'm using i5, you're using i5. But my laptop price will be less compared to your laptop because you are having i5, but you are having totally 8 cores. So you are spending more money there. i5 totally 8 cores totally you are getting in i5, so you are spending more money there. You are paying more money for that particular processor. But again, you are getting more cores, you are getting more speed. So this i5 octa core processor is better for a multimedia person. i5 dual core is much more than enough for a accounts person or maybe a person who is just working as a call center executive. So like this, we need to differentiate between these processors, whether to go with dual core, quad core, octa core, or hexa core. Hexa core normally we are not using in computers. We will use hexa core in servers. Okay, so these are the three cores we have. So according to number of cores, the price of the laptop will vary. If you take only dual core, suppose if it is suppose like say 60,000 rupees. But if you go with like octa core, you are increasing cores to number of 8 cores, right? So if you go with like octa core, then the price will be around 75,000 rupees. So see, there is some difference, right? 60,000 and 75,000. You are spending around 12 to 15,000 more money for the extra 6 cores. But the question here is, do you need that many cores? The answer is maybe yes, maybe no. It depends on the work that you do. If you work as a uh, accounts person or just a call center person, then dual core is more than enough. But if you are using some big application, the application that will consume more processor, more RAM, then you should go with like high processor. So this is one thing we need to see here, friends. We need to see cores. Okay, fine. The next thing we need to see here is speed. What is the speed of that particular processor? Every processor has a speed. See, once I click on this processor, it is showing i5, but can you see it is showing here as 3.1 gigahertz. This is 3.1 gigahertz. That is the speed of this particular processor. So every processor has a speed. Normally the speed will be between like 1.0 gigahertz up to like, it will go up to like 4 gigahertz also, or it can go a bit more also. So that much speed will be there in a processor. So if your processor is having like around 2.0 gigahertz, if it is 2.0 gigahertz and suppose the total number of cores are 2, that means your processor speed is 4.0 gigahertz. 2.2 multiplied by 2, it will be like 4. And suppose your processor speed is again 2.0 gigahertz, but total number of cores are 4. That means 2 multiplied by 4. That means you are having totally 8,000 gigahertz of speed. So first thing we need to see is core, how many cores we have in a processor. The second thing we need to see is this speed. How much speed we have. So normally if the speed is like suppose 3.20 gigahertz, this is my computer speed actually 3.2 gigahertz, and the total cores in my computer are 4. That means I have totally 12,000 plus gigahertz of speed in my computer. That is like too much for me. It's a good speed for a computer. I can run any application on this computer actually, whether it is programming applications or accounts applications or multimedia applications or any expensive applications, I can run very easily on this particular process. So these are the two features we need to see. There are many more features actually, but these are the two major features we have to see. Okay, one more thing. Whenever you take a server or a computer, or especially server actually, we need to see one more feature called virtualization, or it is also called as VTX, whether the machine is supported for virtualization or not. What is virtualization here, friends? Virtualization means by taking a single machine, we can create multiple virtual machines in a single machine. Like for example, in your company, you need totally 100 servers, 100 servers. Instead of taking 100 physical servers, we can take like 3 physical servers or 4 physical servers, and in these 3 or 4 physical servers we can make all the 100 virtual servers. So to do that, we need to have a machine that supports your virtualization, technology. So like this, there are some more features we need to see. Okay, virtualization and cloud computing, I'll just give the introduction in our coming classes, so I'll just remove this, but these are the two main features we need to see. Okay, core and speed. Now coming to RAM. Now on top of this hardware, what we do here, we install the operating system. We know this very well. No computer or server or router or a switch will work without a operating system. And by the way, operating system will take around like 3 classes for us, or at least 2 classes, to see types of operating system and how to do the installation and all those things. It will take minimum 2 days. Okay, so there is a OS here. You know, where is your OS located? OS will be there in your hard disk. You know this very well. Once you shut down the computer, everything will go back to hard disk. So operating system is also there in the hard disk. But once you switch on the computer, you know, everything from hard disk will move into RAM. Right now you can see I'm using this computer. It is powered on. I'm making a file here. Okay, I'm making some document here. So this document is currently running from my RAM. It is not running from my hard disk. If I don't save this RAM, if I do not save this RAM, save this file will be deleted permanently. But if I want to save this file, then this file will be saved permanently in the hard disk. But as of now, everything is running from RAM. Like see, this is a browser. I opened 3 windows here, 3 websites here. And what you see here, you can see some processors and all those things. So where are these processors here? Right now, these processors and whatever you see here, everything is working from your everything is working from your RAM. Once if I close this window, it has deleted everything. Now nothing is there in my computer. If I want to access that particular website again, then again I have to go to like Google, and again I need to say something, I can access that website. But whenever you browse something, everything you're browsing or the data is present in your RAM. It is not present in your hard disk. If you download something, then only it will go to RAM, and then only it will go to hard disk. So RAM is a temporary storage and hard disk is a permanent storage. So whatever we do, everything will be there in RAM. All the documents will be created in RAM. Until and unless you're not saving the data will not go to hard disk. So these are the two things we need to understand. RAM is a temporary storage and hard disk is a permanent storage. So suppose your computer has only 4 GB of RAM. See, nowadays we are getting minimum 4 GB RAM. So if you are having only 4 GB, and once you switch on the computer and suppose you're using Windows 8 or Windows 10 operating system, you know what Windows 8 and 10 operating system will use? It will use 2 GB of RAM. Out of 4 GB, 2 GB is already used by your operating system. And how much is remaining? Only 2 GB is remaining. So in the remaining 2 GB, how many applications you can run? Okay, let me just show you how to see how much RAM is already utilized in your machine. So if you go to this taskbar, right click on this taskbar, and there is an option called Task Manager. In every Windows operating system, there is an option called Task Manager. So when you go to Task Manager, there is an option called Performance, and in this Performance tab, we can see CPU performance and memory performance. So in my computer, as of now, it is using 3.49 GB RAM. See, I have totally 32 GB RAM. I have totally 32 GB RAM in this computer. Out of 32 GB, it is using how much? 3.49 GB. Okay, it is using 3.49 GB. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll just try to open some videos here. Let us say like Durga Soft CCN. Okay, so I'll go to this YouTube channel of Durga Soft. I'll just try to open some videos here. Okay, fine. So see how many videos I have opened, nearly like 7-8 videos I have opened. Now let us see how much RAM is utilized now. Now all these videos, they are running currently from my RAM. They are in my computer, but from where they are running? It is not in hard disk. I'm just browsing this, right? So they are still running from my RAM. Now see how much RAM is utilized now. 3.49 GB is utilized. It is using 1 GB. To open the 10 websites here, it is using 1 GB. I opened 10 videos in YouTube. So it is consuming 10 GB of RAM. Now if I close this, I'm closing all the uh, files at the same time. So just say here once. I said close. Now see how much it is using now. It is back to 3.6 GB, 3.5 GB. So whenever you use something in your machine, okay, so whenever you use anything in your machine, when you run any application, when you open any software, when you open any file, everything will be running from your RAM. So if you have only 4 GB RAM in your computer, 2 GB is already used by your operating system, and your remaining RAM is only like 2 GB. So in this 2 GB, if you open like 3-4 websites or 5-6 websites, it will consume around 1 GB RAM. So you're left with only 1 GB. Now can you open some other application like MS Office or any other application? It will be very difficult for your computer to run that many applications in that remaining 1 GB RAM. Okay, so whenever we do this, whenever we take a computer with minimum 8 GB RAM. 4 GB RAM is very basic RAM. Now imagine like 8 years before, 7 years before, we were using Windows 7 operating system, and we were using the application that are consuming less processor and less RAM. So like 7-8 years before, 4 GB RAM was okay, it was sufficient. But right now the applications and the operating systems that we are using, this operating system and applications will consume more RAM. So 4 GB RAM is not at all sufficient, because 2 GB is already gone to the OS. Remaining 2 GB, like we are browsing something, we open some applications and all those things. So it is not sufficient. So at least go with 6 GB RAM to browse your machine in a better way. Okay, fine. Now the question here is how much GB RAM it will support maximum in a machine. Minimum we have to take 4 GB, but you know, maximum it will go up to 64 GB. We can take a computer or a laptop with 64 GB RAM. But the question here is it necessary to take 64 GB RAM in 300 computers in your company? No. If there are 300 computers, like I said, we need to see the departments: sales, accounts, marketing, finance, programmers, multimedia. According to departments, we need to select our RAM. So minimum RAM we have to go with is like 4 GB or 6 GB. And for in some cases, for like multimedia people, we need to go with maybe like 16 GB or 24 GB RAM. So like this, we need to decide how much RAM is needed for a particular department. We need to calculate everything. Okay, OS will take this much, and this particular department people are using this application, so this applications will consume this much memory. So overall I need like suppose 6 GB RAM. So like this, we need to decide, and we need to order the computers, we need to buy the computers. So RAM is a very major part of your computer. RAM will decide the speed. There are certain devices where, you know, normally people say like the speed of the computer is decided by the processor. Okay, that is one thing. But if you're having like i7 processor, and if the RAM is only 4 GB, the machine will not work properly. It will hang. It will be very slow. In your smartphone, actually, the mobile phone that you are using, Nowadays, we are getting 6 GB and 8 GB as a minimum RAM in mobile phones. And we are using computer and a laptop, right? So it should be like more than 6 GB for sure. Okay, so this is your RAM. So CPU, we know there are different CPUs, and in CPU, we need to see the core and we need to see the speed. And coming to RAM, we need to see the capacity. How much GB is this? One is capacity, and of course, we need to go with like speed also. What exactly is the speed of this RAM? We need to see these two features, capacity and speed. Okay, now hard disk. We know this very well. Hard disk is a permanent storage device. Whatever we save in our computer, it will be saved permanently in our hard disk. So right now I'm still making this file here. This file still where it is there. This file is still running in my random access memory. It is still in my temporary memory. If I save this file, if I go to like save, if I say save, then only the file will go to hard disk. But if I say do not save, then it will not go to hard disk. If I just say exit, it will be simply flushed out from my computer. Okay, so hard disk is a permanent storage. Now, what we need to see in a hard disk, how we can select which hard disk is better. Normally we say like capacity. Fine, capacity should be there. Like what is the size of the hard disk, whether it is like 500 GB or 1 TB, 2 TB, whatever, that we need to see. It is a storage, so storage should be always more. We should never take a hard disk with 500 GB or less than 500 GB. At least 500 GB should be there, or it should be like more than 500 GB. Okay, so the size of the hard disk, that is what we need to see. And the second thing we need to see here is speed of your hard disk. In hard disk, there is a speed called RPM, rotate per minute. Means once you switch on the hard disk, inside the hard disk, there is a disk. You know, CD disk, DVD disk, something like this, a disk will be there. Let us see if I have any photos here. Yeah, this is your hard disk, friends. It will be like this. Can you see there is a disk here? Okay, so this is your disk. This is the disk, and there is something called header here. This is your header. So once you switch on the hard disk, the disk will rotate and this header will read, and the header will read the information from the hard disk. Header will try to read the data from the hard disk. Okay? Now, if the disk speed, it is called RPM, rotate per minute, in a computer, it can be like 5,400 RPM. It can be 7,200 RPM. The size of the hard disk can be 500 GB. Size of the hard disk can be 500 GB, but the RPM can be like 5,400 or 7,200. So if it is 5,400, it is a bit slow compared to 7,200. We can see clearly the speed is mentioned on the hard disk, right? So 7,200 hard disk is much better, much faster compared to 5,400. And coming to money, we need to spend a bit more money for this 7,200. Like suppose for 5,400, you are spending around like say 3,500 rupees. So for this 7,200, maybe you need to spend like 4,200 rupees. Capacity will be same, 500 GB, 500 GB or 1 TB, 1 TB, but we need to spend a bit more money. If you want to take more speed, if you want to take better speed, we need to spend a bit more money. So again, we need to decide in a company whether we should go with like 5,400 RPM or 7,200 RPM. Okay, so in hard disk, we need to see the size, like how much GB it is, and we need to see the speed. These are some of the features we need to see in our computer before we buy a computer for our personal use, for our family, or for in a company. These are the three main components we need to see. Okay, so I'll just revise again, just please listen carefully. Processor is the main part of your computer. There are different generations, different families, i3, i5, i7, i9, and in every family there is a generation. Within i5 there are different generations of processors, so there are minor differences between every generation. That is what we need to see. The second thing we need to see here is how many cores we have in that processor. More the cores, better the performance. And the third one is we need to see the speed. Okay, if there are 4 cores, but the speed of the processor is only like say 1.7 gigahertz, then that is also not better, right? 1.7 gigahertz is not a big speed or not a high speed. So we need to have a better speed, and we need to have more cores. But if you take a better speed and more cores, we need to pay more money. We need to spend more money. So now you should decide in your computer, okay, in your company, we have this many departments. So for each department, what is the best processor? How many cores should be there and how much speed should be there? That is the one thing. The second thing is we need to see the RAM. Like I said, in RAM, we need to see the capacity as well as this. What is the size of the RAM? Whether it is 4 GB, 8 GB, 6 GB, whatever. What is the size of the RAM and what is the speed of the RAM? These are the two things we need to see in a RAM. And coming to hard disk, here also we need to see the size and we need to see the speed. After considering everything, then we need to say like, okay, I need a computer with this processor, this much GB RAM and this much GB hard disk for accounts people. We need a computer for like multimedia people with this processor, with this much GB RAM and with this much hard disk size. Then we can, take a better computer for that particular requirement. For every requirement, the computer configuration can be different and it will be different actually. If there are 1,000 computers in a company, no way 1,000 computers configuration will be same. No way. If you take the same configuration, maybe you are spending more money, or maybe many department people, they cannot work perfectly because, if you take less configuration, all the departments it is not suitable. And if you take more configuration, for many departments you are overspending money, right? So these are the things we need to consider and buy a machine. Now, whatever I have discussed here in last 40 minutes, this is not only for computer or laptop, this is also same for a server. Server is also a hardware machine. I repeat here, friends, server is also a hardware machine like a computer or a laptop. Server also has a CPU, RAM, hard disk, and NIC card. Server also has a operating system. And server also we need to see whether to go with like 4 GB RAM, 8 GB RAM, 16 GB, 32 GB, whatever GB. In server also we need to decide which hard disk we have to take, how much capacity we have to take. In server also we have to decide which processor to take and how many cores to take and all those things. So whatever we are considering in computer and laptop, the same features we need to consider in server. But the difference here is the applications that we run on a server are very high applications. Okay, so obviously in server we will not take 4 GB RAM. We cannot imagine a server with 4 GB RAM actually. That is too less for a server machine. So we will see what applications we use and how much GB RAM server is supporting in all those things. But just try to understand the basics of your hardware. Then hopefully we can go and see the hardware of your server. So please take 30 seconds here, friend. Just try to revise everything. Just try to analyze. And in case if there is any doubt, we will see. Then we can move into the server part. And like I said you before, chat box is always open for sending messages or asking questions. Okay, so you can send me a question anytime in the chat box. Okay, fine. So now let us go and look at a server motherboard and a computer motherboard. There we can see like how much a server motherboard is supporting and how much a computer motherboard is supporting. Things will be more easier for you to understand. So if I take a computer motherboard, friends, it will look something like this. Yeah, this is a computer motherboard. So once you open your desktop machine, it will be something like this inside. So what you see here, this is your Actually CPU, processor. It can be i3, i5, i7, i9. It can be any processor with any number of cores, whatever. But this is a place where you connect your processor. And what you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are totally 4 RAM slots. RAM will be connected at that place. So on a desktop, you will get 2 or you will get 4 also. But in laptops, you will get only 2. And there are some laptops which will support only 1 RAM slot. See, if a laptop is supporting only 1 RAM slot, better not to take that laptop, because in coming months and years it is not easy for you to upgrade your laptop. So better take a laptop with minimum 2 RAM slots, and better take a computer with minimum 4 RAM slots. That will have like more options with us in future. If you want to upgrade, we can upgrade easily. But coming to this processor, if this is i3 processor, this motherboard is designed for i3 processor. We cannot upgrade i3 to i5. That's not possible. If you want to upgrade from i3 to i5, you should change motherboard as well as processor. Got it? But if you want to upgrade your RAM, like suppose you have totally 4 GB RAM here. In each slot, you are having 4 GB RAM. That means totally 16 GB RAM is here, right? But suppose you want to upgrade from 16 GB to 18 GB, or 16 GB to like 32 GB. Then you know what we can do? We can remove 4 GB RAM here and we can put 8 GB RAM. That will be supported. So RAM we can upgrade. But coming to processors, we cannot remove the i3 processor and we cannot keep a i5 processor there. That motherboard is designed for i3 only, so it will support only i3 processor. Okay. So this is your processor slot and the RAM slot. And coming to hard disk, friends. Hard disk will be connected here. This is called SATA port. This is the place where we connect our hard disk. Okay, it's a very good question coming here. The question is how to know motherboard is upgradable or not. Or I can select how much we can upgrade in a motherboard. How to know that? There are many ways. One way is when you purchase a computer, especially motherboard and processor, there is a book. There is a book called catalog. So there it will be written as how much it will support, maximum how much it will support. That is one thing you can know. But normally we don't keep those books and everything for very long. So there is another way. Every motherboard has a number, a model number. Every computer has a model number. Every laptop has a model number, right? So just take that particular model number and go to Google and say like, okay, Sony laptop, this model specification. So it will show all the details of that particular laptop. Then it will show you like minimum how much is coming in this laptop and how much we can upgrade. So normally it will show minimum as 4 GB RAM, and then it will mention as, okay, there are totally 4 RAM slots. You can upgrade up to 32 GB or 64 GB. So we can go to Google and we can check everything, or we can take that book and we can check everything. Or there is one more place that is called BIOS. Basic input output signal. What is BIOS? That we will see again in coming classes and more details after like maybe 2 days, hopefully. So BIOS is the place again where we can see all these things. This is a big interview question actually. They will ask you, can we upgrade a machine with 4 GB RAM to like 8 GB RAM or not? Normally we say yes, but they will say how you know whether the machine is supporting 8 GB RAM or not. That is the main question. I just cannot go to the shop or showroom and I cannot bring a 8 GB RAM. First of all, I should know whether my computer is supported with that or not. So first of all, I need to verify. So I can verify this in my BIOS, or I can just go to the Google and I can say the specification. Okay, I'll just try to do something. I'll just try to check some specification. Let's say Dell i5 11th generation laptop. Let's say specification. Okay, so it is showing you something here. Okay, see, it shows Intel Core i5 11th generation. And how many cores are there here totally? Quad core. Remember quad core? That means there are totally 4 cores. That's better. 8 GB RAM is by default available. 1 TB hard disk is by default available. Okay, let us go to see full specifications here. Okay, so it should mention here like 8 GB is supported, but how much is uh, okay, there is a small description here. It says 8 GB RAM. It is saying 8 GB RAM is lots of RAM, means more applications can run at the same time, which makes the laptop faster. That is what we have said, right? We have seen practically also, like, if there is more RAM, how it will affect your machine performance. Okay, so it is saying like it is supporting 8 GB, but it should support up to, it should show the uh, slots also, how many slots are there in that RAM. Okay, it is saying 16 GB. See, so this particular laptop is supporting up to 16 GB of RAM. Got it? So just go to the Google and just check the specification. Whatever laptop you're using right now, just see the specification. It will show all the details. If I just remove Dell here and if I go to some other company, it will show that also. Like say HP i7 11th generation laptop. So it is showing me something, some model is here, DV05 something. See, it is supporting 16 GB RAM, 1 TB. This is default actually. So how much it will support here? See, processor is also, number of processors are 4 cores, and what is the speed of the processor? 2.8 gigahertz. Okay, this is a RAM speed here, friends. RAM speed is 3200 megahertz. This is a good speed. Now right now, okay, it is getting 8 GB. There are 2 slots in this in this laptop, and total number of slots are 2, and each slot is added with 8 GB RAM, so it is totally 16 GB RAM. So see, all the details are mentioned here. Okay, so like this we can see whether a machine is supported with like 4 GB RAM, 8 GB RAM, or whatever RAM it is supporting. So this is a place we connect our CPU, and we have seen the place for your RAM, and this is a place where we connect our hard disk. These are the 3 major components. So this is your computer motherboard, friends. So let me just take you to one more motherboard, and let us see what differences you can see there. Can you please point out some differences here? This is also a motherboard, but this is not a computer motherboard. This is a server motherboard. Can you at least highlight 2 differences between a computer motherboard and a server motherboard? You can see the differences clearly, right? Okay, so this is a server motherboard, and in this server motherboard you can see clearly, exactly, I got the answer here, 4 processor slots. We can see this is 1 processor slot, 2, 3, 4. At least it will be 1. The processor will be at least 1 in server for sure. Whether it is server, computer, whatever device, 1 processor will be there. But in this server there are 4 processors. It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 4, or it can be more than 4. So why we need 4 processors in a server? That is a big question. Why 1 processor is more than enough for a computer or a laptop, and why we need totally 4 processors in a 2 processors in a server? Because server work is that much actually. Server is responsible for many services. Many people are connected to server and they are accessing many services. Server is very busy here. Server is very busy, so server should have proper hardware. So again, that we will see in more details in our coming sessions, what services it is hosting and how it is communicating and all those things. But as of now, just try to understand server will have more hardware because many people are connected to server, And coming to computer, only one person is connected to computer. Only one person is using the computer. But for a server or on a server, there are some hundreds and thousands of people are connected. Now see here, that is the one thing. And the second thing is RAM slots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here also RAM slots. Here also RAM slots. See how many RAM slots we have. There are totally 48 RAM slots actually on this server motherboard. 48 RAM slots. Now suppose imagine each RAM slot is supporting 48 multiplied by, let us say, like 8 GB RAM. It will suppose 16 also, but let us say 8 GB. See how much GB RAM it is supporting? 384 GB RAM it is supporting. This is huge. So why do we need 384 GB RAM in a server? Because server is used to host multiple services, or we can do virtualization on this server. Virtualization means on a single machine we can install multiple operating systems, many operating systems, and we can use all at the same time. So for that reason we need more processors and we need more RAM. So 384 GB is huge. I can guarantee, like, people in this online session here, like maybe you're using 8 GB RAM, or maximum maybe you're using 16 GB RAM, right? That is what you use normally in a computer. 4 GB, 8 GB, or up to 16 GB. In my computer it is 32 GB for many reasons, but I'm using 32 GB here. But 8 GB to 16 GB is very common nowadays. But in this server it is supporting 384. But if I say like 48 multiplied by 16, if it is 16 GB RAM, then it is 768 GB. So there is a huge RAM. So we have 4 processors and we have that many RAM slots here. And there is one more thing here that is called NIC card. You can see clearly there are totally 3 NIC cards visible here. And if you go to the computer motherboard, there is only one NIC card here. So what is the use of NIC card? NIC card is used to connect your machine to the network, whether it's your company network or whether it is a internet. Without NIC card, a device cannot be connected to the network. Okay, there is a very good message coming here, and it says server always takes many requests at the same time, so it needs more RAM to process. Exactly. If there is more space available, that means many people can come there, right? So here also same. If there is more speed and more space available in your processor and your RAM, it can handle more requests. Okay, so server is a machine that is there to give services to the users, to provide services to the users. So hundreds and thousands of users are connected to the server. So obviously server must have more hardware, a better hardware. Got it? So we can see differences clearly here between server motherboard and a computer motherboard, and server hardware and a computer hardware. So server hardware is obviously having more hardware configuration compared to a normal computer. This server with 4 GB RAM, with 4 processors and like up to 700 GB RAM, this server may cost a company around $6,500. $6,500 is some money in Indian currency. It is, let me just check how much. 6,500 multiplied by, let us say, 73 or 74. It is nearly 5 lakh Indian rupees. 5 lakh Indian rupees for a single machine is some money. So company will spend that much money because they need a server, they need a machine with high configuration so that this machine can provide the services to the users, and users can connect and they can work. The server hardware is obviously a bit more costlier compared to a computer or a laptop. If you take a server with like 6 processors or more, or if you take a server with like multiple cores and more RAM slots and more NIC cards, then again we have to pay more money. A server can cost like $20,000 also, or maybe $30,000 also. Actually, this is one of the major reasons, friends, why cloud computing is very famous. So this is $6,500 for one server. Imagine a company needs totally 80 servers. So just multiply 6500 by 80. You'll get a very big number, and that is too much money. So cloud computing is becoming more and more famous. It already became very famous because of one of the reason is this. A company have to spend more money on a server. Okay, the initial infrastructure will cost a company too much, and the company has no idea whether the business will be successful or not successful. So in case if the business is successful, then well and good. If the business is not successful, then the company has wasted a lot of money. So for that reason, cloud providers are saying no need to pay this much money, no need to spend this much money, just come and use our servers and pay money according to your use. So there is a very likable option actually. So companies will like that option very much. They say, okay, we are starting a new business, so we need 10 servers. So we'll take servers from your data center, and we will pay how much we are using. And in case our business is not working, we will terminate our servers. So then no need to pay money to you. That is the whole concept of cloud computing. Hopefully we'll just go there and have some discussion one day. Okay, so as of now, this is the difference between a server hardware and a computer hardware. Hardware is same, processor, RAM, hard disk and NIC, but server hardware is having like more capacity, and computer and laptop hardware is limited. Limited in the sense it is more than enough for a single user to use. I should not say 16 GB RAM in a computer is limited. That is excellent because only one person is using that particular computer, right? So that is more than enough. But coming to server, it's a different game. Many people are connected, so many services are running. So obviously we need more process. I will show you the details of servers, like how to see the server specifications, server configuration and all those things, hopefully tomorrow because the time is up for today. So whatever we have discussed today, just take a break for like 2 minutes, just try to analyze everything. If there is any doubt from today's topic, we will clear all our questions, and hopefully when you come tomorrow, I'll take you to some servers, and there we will see like how to choose a server, like how much cores will be there, hard disk, RAM and all those things. And according to your configuration, how much price is there, how much money we need to spend on that particular server. So server hardware in more details, we will see again tomorrow. See friends, whatever we have discussed today, this is not only for server administration. This is also for network administration. This is also for cloud computing. Cloud computing, at least you know the terminology cloud computing, right? So what we do in cloud computing here is, like suppose I'll go to a Amazon web server. So this is Amazon data center. It will be something like this. Now see the size. This is a data center. All these are servers actually connected with each other. So we are using these servers and we are making a logical server there. We are making a virtual server. Now see, if you take a server with some configuration, like for example, over the cloud, if you take a server with 2 core, let's say 8 GB RAM, okay, and let's say like 120 GB hard disk. If you take this server configuration on cloud, you need to pay some money, you need to pay some dollars. But if you take a server with 8 core, let's say 32 GB RAM, let's say like 800 GB hard disk, then obviously we need to pay more money. So what we need to understand here is 2 GB, is it sufficient or not? Or do I need to go with like 4 GB or 8 GB? 120 GB hard disk, is it sufficient or not? Or do I need to go with like 1 TB, 2 TB, 3 TB? Unnecessary. If you go with like more hardware, we need to spend more money. That is the main thing I'm trying to explain here. If you go with more hardware without any use or without any reason, we need to spend more money. So in cloud computing also, we need to consider the same things. How many cores we need to take, what speed we need to take in a processor, how much GB RAM we need to take, and how much hard disk we need to take. So according to the configuration, whatever we take, the pricing will be done. The money we need to pay to the cloud provider. So we should not take less and we should not go with more. We should always take what is needed for us. So if you know the features of CPU, RAM and hard disk, then only it will be easy for you to decide how much we need to take in a machine. Okay, and like I said, you tomorrow we will see more about servers. We'll just go deep and we'll just try to understand. like what are the different companies that are providing servers, and what configurations will be there in a server, and what OS will be there in a server, and all those things. So that's it from me for today, friends. Over to you now. I'll be here for next couple of minutes. If you have any queries from today's class, then hopefully we can address everything. See, we are in very early stages of our course. This is just a demo session. So before we enter into the administration, we'll just try to understand very basic things. Okay, so feel free to raise your question. Feel free to send me a message. Okay, the classes should be very, it should be like from two-way. If I'm just talking without hearing from your side, then it will be like a boring thing. Okay, so this session should be very interesting, and this session should be from both the sides. Okay, yeah, Mayur, please go ahead. Okay, what is the difference between server admin course and MCSE? Both are same, Mayur. MCSE was, Microsoft Certified Solution Expert. That is the server administration course offered by Microsoft. But right now there are no MCSE examinations, right? So we are not calling this course as MCSE. We are just calling it as server administration. But whatever you are learning here, the same topics you were learning in MCSE only. That's the only thing. Right now there are no certifications for MCSE. So we are just calling this course as server administration, Windows Server Administration. Okay. And thanks a lot, Soumya, for saying that. Thanks a lot. Okay, what certifications can I do after this course? After this course, better you go with like cloud computing. That is a better option nowadays. Of course, you should go with CCNA also. MCSE, CCNA, and Linux. Just try to do these three courses. Okay, I'll just try to make a plan for you. Just try to, I'm not saying you should follow this thing, but you'll get a better idea like what you can do in your coming days. You're learning Windows admin now. Okay, then you have to go with like Linux administration and CCNA. These both are server administration. One is Windows Server Administration, another one is Linux. CCNA is about networks and it is talking about routers and switches. So this is mandatory, friends. These are the three things you should do. You will get a job on these three things in majority of cases. Majority of companies will hire a person on Windows Server Administration, Linux Administration, and CCNA. Okay. Then after this, once you finish this, if you want to go for something, you can go for like cloud computing. In cloud computing you have like AWS or Azure, okay, and you have like GCP also, that is from Google. You can go with this, or you can go with security. These are the two better options we have. But just now, right now, just try to complete these three things, then go with like cloud and all those things. And from these three, for Windows Server Administration there are no certifications now. So you better go with Linux certification or CCNA certification. CCNA certification is like much more recommended in a way. So you can go with like Linux or CCNA certification. Go with any one of the certification, then do cloud computing. And in cloud computing also you have some examinations, you have some certifications. So just go with any associate level certification. If you're going with AWS, just go with a associate level AWS certification. That is the way things will be working for you. So right now, Windows MCSE was one of the most famous certifications we have in last 20 years. But everything is moving into cloud. So this Microsoft people, they have changed everything and they stopped the certifications of Windows Server and they have included Azure as a basic. So you can go directly with the cloud certification also, or you can just go with like CCNA or Linux certification. These are the options available for you. Okay. Okay, friends. So that's it for today. So thanks for joining again. See you tomorrow at same time. And again, this video will be uploaded on YouTube channel of Durgasoft within like 2 hours. So if you want to just revise anything, you can go and just revise. And tomorrow, like I said, we will just continue with our servers. We have to see what is there in a server, what configurations will be there, hardware configurations, and what operating systems. All these things hopefully we'll see tomorrow. And we'll just try to cover our router and switch part. We will get the introduction of router and switch also tomorrow. Okay. So that's it, friend. That's it for today. See you tomorrow at same time at 10 a.m. Take care. Have a nice day.